This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Stick around to the end of the video for a special offer they're making available through my channel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to This Week in Video Games, the show that's perfectly explained by the title of the show. I'm your host, Shillup. Let's get started. Bad news for the three of you out there who use Google Stadia. Not only are Google first-party studios shutting down, but Stadia is losing at least one of its third-party games as well. Terraria's co-creator Andrew Spinks has recently had his Google accounts cancelled for no apparent reason, and after pleading with Google support for weeks, he finally had jack of it and wrote, quote, "I absolutely have not done anything to violate your terms of service, so I can take this no other way than you deciding to burn this bridge. Consider it burned. Terraria for Google Stadia is cancelled. My company will no longer support any of your platforms moving forward." Imagine losing one of the few third-party games you've secured because you couldn't give an honest man back his Gmail account. Stadia is going for a world record-breaking number of L's in a single week, and we all get to see it happen live on social media. Glorious. One of the less talked about stories for the week was the news that Randy Pitchford has sold Gearbox to Embracer Group for around $1.3 billion. There's a lot to unpack there. So yeah, Randy, God love him, owned Gearbox along with a whole bunch of staff who owned shares in it. They made out like bandits this week when Embracer Group, which is an amalgamation of Koch Media, THQ Nordic and a few others, paid around $360 million up front with a promise of a further $1 billion if earnings targets are hit over the next few years. Many were excited by the prospect of Randy no longer being in charge, but no, he will remain at the head of Gearbox, free USB sticks, and medieval time gift certificates for all. If you've been living under a rock, you might have missed the announcement that the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is coming. BioWare lifted the lid on this package, which remasters Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, complete with all DLC except for one pack, owing to some corrupt data making that impossible. The changes are substantial, with new textures, 4K resolutions, and 60 FPS when played on Pro, X, and next-gen consoles. There's also changes to gunplay, the Mako driving controls, some of the morality checks in Mass Effect 2, and the extended cut ending is now in there as canon. The big change that people are talking about, though, are some camera angle changes, specifically camera angles that highlight Miranda's butt. People are very upset about this, and it has generated a lot of debate. A Mass Effect debate. A mass debate, if you will. People are masturbating over Miranda's butt. Speaking of BioWare, did you know the failure of Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem weren't failures, they were blips in delivery? That's according to EA's CEO and bipedal serpent Andy Wilson, who in a recent earnings call employed this powerfully euphemistic language when asked to comment on why BioWare kept spitting out clangers. A little bit rich to call Anthem, easily one of the biggest flops in gaming history, a blip in delivery, but this is the company that tried to dress up loot boxes as surprise mechanics, so we really shouldn't be loot boxed. I mean, surprised. By the way, we're getting a new Battlefield, and probably soon. As part of the same earnings call, EA announced that the new Battlefield was progressing faster than they had planned, and will be revealed this American spring for release before the end of the year. EA hinted that it will support more players than ever before, which means possibly more than 64 players a server this time around, and that you can expect increased player agency, whatever the hell that means. Related to this, but far more shocking, was the announcement from Activision that after careful consideration, really weighing the pros and cons, and making a really tricky gut feel call, Activision have decided to make another Call of Duty game. It's unexpected, but our industry is just full of these out of left field announcements. And that's one of the reasons I love video games so much. You just never know when the next Call of Duty is coming. Call of Duty will be out before the end of the year so it can continue its long tradition of outselling everything but FIFA and GTA 5. We got more Activision Blizzard news this week because they had an earnings call as well, and it was there that we learned a hell of a lot about Blizzard's plans for the upcoming year. TLDR, no real games, only mobile games. That's right, Blizzard confirmed that Diablo 4 wasn't coming this year, which we kinda suspected, but neither was Overwatch 2, which is not the news people were hoping for. While no one wants to see Blizzard rush out an unfinished game, the news frustrated fans who felt that Blizzard announced the game too early, perhaps cynically to distract from the Free Hong Kong drama that Blizzard was embroiled in. This is an even more bitter pill for Overwatch fans to swallow because they've been told not to expect any new heroes between now and when the sequel lands, relegating the game they love to relative stagnancy until such time as Blizzard get their shit together. Don't worry though, Blizzard have a plan. More mobile games! We already knew to expect Diablo Immortal out soon, which to be fair, I played it, and it's pretty good. But on top of that, it was revealed that multiple World of Warcraft mobile games are currently in development. Quote, "In our Warcraft franchise, we intend to deliver more frequent, premium content to sustain and expand the World of Warcraft community, and we've made multiple mobile, free-to-play Warcraft experiences, and they're now in advanced development, based on our franchise's beloved IP." That quote coming from Activision CEO Bobby Kotick. The news comes as Activision have committed to doubling down on mobile games after the spectacular success of COD Mobile. Activision have said that we should expect mobile releases for pretty much every Activision Blizzard property going forward, so yay? Since its earnings call season, Square Enix had theirs as well, and the good news is that they still managed to stay in the black despite losing over $60 million on the Avengers. Square booked a 4.3% increase in profit from last year, despite the black eye they got from dipping their toe in the live service looter morass. Speaking of black eye, where the hell is Hawkeye? Is he still coming out? Are they making content for this game still? What the hell is happening with the Avengers? Amazon is getting a new CEO, and he isn't giving up on gaming. You've probably heard that Uncle Jeff is stepping down to the position of executive chairman, and he'll be replaced as CEO by Andy Jassy. Andy made perfectly clear that he has absolutely no idea how bad things are within Amazon games when he said this, quote, "Some businesses take off in the first year and others take many years. Though we haven't consistently succeeded yet in Amazon Game Studios, I believe we will if we hang in there." If you've read Bloomberg's recent expose on how deeply dysfunctional Amazon Games is, or you've even played any of their terrible games, you'd know that Amazon needs a lot more than vacuous platitudes to get them back into fighting shape. And finally, remember the Resident Evil event that was announced for The Division 2? Turns out that most of the cosmetic gear you could collect was kind of already in the game. Redditor Cruiser Reddit compiled a bunch of comparison screenshots showing the fact that most of the collectible gear was just recolors of existing gear. Not exactly what fans were hoping for when they logged in. So, what got announced or delayed this week? Well, the biggest news was the reveal of Final Fantasy XIV's next big expansion called Endwalker. It's out American fall this year, so sometime between September and November. And it's a big deal because it wraps up a storyline that's been running for 10 years within Final Fantasy XIV, clearing the way for an entirely new chapter of the saga. The expansion serves up 2 new classes, a still under wraps melee DPS class, and a healer class called the Sage, which many people say is just a Gundam ripoff. But the game lead, Yoshi P, disagrees.
You're looking at the comments and you see lots of things that are mentioning kind of Gundam, that the new lists are kind of Gundam-like.
よくわかんない。それに関してはね、まあここに書かれている通り、まあノーコメントとさせていただきたいです。
No comment.
ケングです。お忘れなくケングという武器です。
New lists. It's completely original.
As excited as fans were about the reveal, they were perhaps more excited to learn that Yoshi P wasn't going anywhere. He commented that Final Fantasy XIV was his life's work and that he expected to be working on it for the rest of his life, and there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. Because there was no audience at all. They did it in a big empty auditorium, but if there were people there, they surely would have been crying. Speaking of updates, Destiny 2's next season was revealed as well. It's called Season of the Chosen, and it pits Guardians against the Cabal once again in a glorious extravaganza of reissued weapons, reissued strikes, and absolutely no new PvP content. I jest, in part, because I love Destiny, but there's a lot of work to be done to fix this game that seasons aren't really doing. By the way, if you enjoyed hearing me complain about Destiny for 30 seconds, perhaps you'd like to hear me complain about it for 13 minutes. Click the link in the description below. Apex Legends is getting a Switch port. I personally wouldn't want to play Apex Legends on Switch controls, but if you want to, you can. The good news is that the port is being delivered by Panic Button, who are pretty much the best in the business when it comes to Switch ports. It will support full crossplay and will release on March 9th. Judgment, the Yakuza-themed spin-off, is getting a next-gen upgrade, only it's not free if you already own it. You need to buy it again, so that sucks. It's also not coming to Steam because it's a PS5, Xbox Series X, and Stadia exclusive. Like, for real. Does Google really think that they're going to start shifting Stadia subs on the back of Judgment? Anyone that knows what this game is going to have sense enough to not have Stadia. I mean, we're talking about a pretty niche and hardcore following here. Anyway, all of this gets released on April 23rd. Strategy nerds the world over all became very moist at the announcement of Total War Warhammer 3. The series is the jewel in the crown of both the Total War series and the Warhammer franchise, which has a nasty habit of consistently churning out pretty average games. We only have a flashy cinematic trailer to go on at the moment, but people are pumped. Total War Warhammer 3 will be released later this year. And finally, the one delay announced this week was the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake. This is the second delay for the title, which was most recently going to be out on March 18th. Ubisoft put out a statement delaying the game to a later date, no specific date given. They just said they needed more time, which is weird because, you know, it's a game about time, and yet they needed more time? Get it? No? Okay, let's go on to the next section. What came out last week? Well, we got our hands on Destruction All-Stars, the PS Plus exclusive, which turned out to be a bit of a bummer. I reviewed it and I'm like, don't play this, it sucks. I wasn't the only one that thought that, as the game currently sits at a 65 critic score and a 5.4 user score on Metacritic. The game is basically a free-to-play game that's taken up a spot on the PS Plus release schedule, charging money for single-player content and crappy cosmetics. This feels underbaked and phoned in, a real shame given how much many people were looking forward to it. If you want to learn more, a link to my review is in the description below. Nioh 1 and 2, complete and remastered, both hit PS5 and PC this week, and people certainly aren't thrilled with the quality of the PC port. The Steam reviews dipped to mixed for a while, owing to some choppy performance and some truly half-baked keyboard and mouse support. The developers have committed to fixing this, so if you're not in a rush, it may be best to sit this one out until a few patches roll through. Do be sure to grab it though, eventually, because Nioh 2 is really good, it's just really hard, so be ready for that. Werewolf, The Apocalypse, Earthblood, that's a lot of subtitles. It was released this week, and it didn't go so well. It's sitting at around 50 critic and 50 user score. PC Gamer scored it a 79, saying it's a joyful mix of stealth and action. The fun doesn't snag around the rough edges, but IGN were less charitable, scoring it a 40 and saying Werewolf, The Apocalypse, Earthblood has decent stealth going for it, but its weak story forces you into painfully mediocre combat too often to be worthwhile, wasting the potential of the World of Darkness universe. Easily the best release this week was the PS5 patch for my personal game of the generation, God of War. This is a very good video game, and with the PS5 patch you can expect 2160p resolution upscaled to 4K and 60 FPS. If you're like one of the 3 people in the world that have a PS5 and you haven't played God of War yet, goddamn, I really wish I was you. What's coming out this week then? Well, first up we have Little Nightmares 2. It's the second Little Nightmares game. I commented last week that I hadn't played the first one and everyone was like, dude, you gotta play it, it's great. So obviously it's a good game, people are excited for the next one. It's out on the 11th on all platforms. The other thing to look forward to is Super Mario 3D World, the next big game the Big N are giving us the privilege of paying for twice. It's not so bad though, because this time they're including a brand new game mode in the form of Bowser's Fury, the open-worldy style adventure which expands on the Super Mario 3D World foundations. The original release on the Wii U was great, so there's little reason to suspect this won't be as well. It's out on the 12th and it's coming to the Nintendo Switch, the Atari VCS, the Sega Dreamcast, and Stadia. I'm just kidding. Nothing gets released on Stadia, except for Judgment. Why the hell is Judgment coming to Stadia? Put this on your radar. Valheim is an early access sandbox survival game where you have to collect resources to build weapons, armor. Whoa, hang on, wait, come back. Now I know what you're thinking. Another one of these? Sure, it's another one of these. But it's also sitting at overwhelmingly positive on Steam, and everyone I've spoken to about this is absolutely loving it. I plan to boot it up just as soon as the Steam Festival is over, as I want to get through as many demos as I can. Valheim is certainly something to check out if you're keen to jump on the latest bandwagon. Sort of free stuff is back, and it's a pretty good week. You still have your PS Plus games and games with gold, so no need to talk about them, but there's also some new stuff. On the Epic Games Store, For the King is currently free until the 12th, which we expected, but what we didn't expect was that Metro Last Light Redux would also be free. This is a welcome surprise because the Metro series is excellent, so if you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to grab it before the 12th as well, at which point Halcyon 6 Lightspeed Edition becomes your next free Epic game. Game Pass got its monthly refresh as well. You can get the solid Jurassic World Evolution for both cloud and console, not bad. The Falconeer got okay reviews and it's available on cloud, console, and PC. The headline is the excellent Final Fantasy XII coming to console and PC, and they're bringing Wolfenstein Youngblood to cloud. For the love of God, do not play this game. It's atrocious. Guys, to finish up, our feel-good story of the week comes courtesy of Capcom, who tweeted out this cheeky message from the Resident Evil account. Quote, "Most recently, Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters have received a fair amount of attention, far more than we anticipated. It's great that they're able to take the spotlights as icons of Resident Evil Village. Lady Dimitrescu especially has received much fanfare, both domestically and overseas, which has made all of us in the development team extremely happy. I hear her height is something of interest. If you include her hat and her high heels, she's 2.9 meters, approximately 9'6" tall. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna need some alone time. I will kindly thank you for stopping by. I'll politely ask you to drop the video a like or leave a positive review on your podcast platform. Be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so I can interrupt you when you're just about to land your first kiss on your crush. Thank you all. See you next week. Bye-bye. This video was brought to you by Squarespace, the best place to build a professional-looking website for your hobby, business, or just because you feel like it. Let's say you want to have a career in video games or content creation. Having your own website would be a damn good start. You could use it to profile your own artwork if you were an artist. You could showcase your best writing there if that's your thing. Or if you wanted to be a games journalist or a commentator, you could start your own blog. With Squarespace, the process is always simple. Just choose from one of their many professional looking templates, update it using their intuitive tools, and voila, you've got yourself a very schmick looking website in no time. There's even more advanced features like the ability to schedule posts or traffic overview analytics so you can gain insights into where the clicks are coming from. To get started, visit squarespace.com, and when you're ready to get serious, visit squarespace.com/skillup for a 10% discount on your first purchase of a website or a domain name. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.